Hello there, and thank you for joining me for yet another film recommendation and insight. Not many motion pictures in recent memory have generated such heated debate as this film, especially when so few people had seen it. This highly controversial film from 1988 remains one of the most fascinating films about religion ever made. Willem Dafoe and Harvey Keitel star in Martin Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ.
Who are you?
I'm the angel who guards you.
Willem Dafoe plays the role of Jesus Christ, depicting his struggles with the human temptations of fear, lust, depression, and then finally his temptation whilst on the cross. The film is adapted from Nikos Kazantzakis' controversial 1953 novel of the same name. Kazantzakis was deeply spiritual. His works centrally deal with the struggle to find truth in religion and spirituality. Scriptwriter Paul Schrader, who wrote the initial draft of the script, has a Calvinist background which he describes as a thinker's religion, and he brings some of his own ideas to the script. As a Christian myself, I admire the film from an artistic point of view, and I see it as a fictional story. Although I do think that taking alternative standpoints with the Bible is dangerous territory and shouldn't be done lightly. But Scorsese deals with the subject matter respectfully and has said that he was always interested to make a film about Jesus, either from the Gospels or from other eyes.
It's difficult. You begin to sound as if you're sermonizing or in a way, but you're always thinking about material things in our society, in our culture. And what about what's for the spirit?
Up until this time, Scorsese felt that most film portrayals of Jesus showed his divine side, but he was interested in the exploration of Jesus' human struggle.
This is not a film to shake anybody's faith. That's the last thing in the world I'd want to do. I feel that if they have faith, faith is strong, and this film would never hurt anyone's faith.
The opening to the film clearly states that the film is not based upon the Gospels from the Bible, but upon the fictional exploration of the eternal spiritual conflict. It's important to stick with the story to the final scene. The last half hour is critical to understanding of the film. I find the film an interesting philosophical exploration of how different the world could have been if Jesus hadn't died on the cross for mankind's wrongdoings.
You lived this life. You accepted it. It's over now. Just finish it. Die like a man.
Scorsese's Roman Catholic upbringing has influenced his use of religious imagery and ritual to generate emotion. We often recognise these elements in his movies, and they reflect his fascination with trying to live a good Christian way. His intention was to make the film so it would appeal to modern-day audience, using language that people could relate to.
I always feel that just because something takes place 2,000 years ago, it doesn't mean people have changed. The emotions are the same. So we did it extremely contemporary, to make it more powerful, to make it mean something to somebody here. Very often people hear, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth," and they turn off, because it's been said too many times. And we have to find a new way to say that, to make it immediate, and to make it to confront the audience with these ideas of Jesus, the ideas of love, and loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself. I think it's an important theme. I think it's an important philosophy.
To get the film made, Scorsese offered to make the film and shoot it in 58 days for a budget of $7 million.
Flickering red light means that we're taping.
Filming began in October 1987 in Morocco. It was a small-scale film with no comfort for the actors, which meant long hours, hiking to locations, but everyone involved was happy to do it.
Okay, ready? We're preparing for the shot, thanks. When you have a chance, the camera's over there. When you're not busy.
Due to the time constraints, many scenes were improvised and developed as they filmed. Scorsese commented that, "We worked in a state of emergency."
We waited half a day for these knife dancers to come. And they were supposed to be fantastic and do these wild things, and this was the extent of their great art.
The small budget forced Scorsese to use simplistic methods to achieve specific scenes, such as the cobra and lion speaking to Jesus. Simple voiceovers placed over the top of the scenes to get across this idea of the devil tempting Jesus in the desert. In the scene where Roman soldiers are surrounding the area, only 5 stuntmen were available, so clever camera moves and editing techniques were engaged to help create the illusion of multiple soldiers. Although the role was originally offered to Sting, David Bowie makes a cameo appearance as Pontius Pilate. Having just finished a tour, Bowie arrived and filmed the scene in 2 days. Scorsese was inspired to recreate scenes from religious art depicting Jesus. This shot was based on the painting Christ Carrying the Cross by Bosch.
We literally tried to compose it exactly the same way. Rather different, rather difficult to do in a 1:5 aspect ratio. We tried.
Defoe has commented on the physical challenge to film his scenes on the cross and his experience doing it.
This whole experience of being on the cross, I want to say something like you have a Pavlovian response to it. I've never been on a cross before, but somehow you have very strong, no matter how you're brought up, you have strong associations to that cross. And it's a very moving and strange experience. And the fact that it's lifted off the ground and you're like floating in space in a uncomfortable pose is an odd experience. They got me up, they had to shoot very quickly because to hold this pose, and you are holding it, it's like an incredible isometric, and after a while I'd start to shake. So it was difficult.
Scorsese has quoted his parish priest, who had seen Scorsese's films over the years, and stated that his films are too much Good Friday and not enough Easter Sunday. But Scorsese admits he can't help it, but he's attracted to the tortured Jesus in the same way as in other films he has made. He is attracted to strong characters who are tortured because of the conflict and violence in them. According to Scorsese, the last shot was not intentional. The camera that was used to film the scene was faulty, and light leaked into the film, causing a whiteout at the exact point in the scene at which Jesus died. And this was not discovered until the film was processed.
When Peter Gabriel has said, he said this is a film that if anyone who has faith and sees this film, they will not lose their faith, and those who see it and who do not have faith will gain faith by seeing it. Well, and Peter feels very strongly about it. There are people who worked on his crew who were feeling that way. At first felt certain ways and then were overwhelmed by the picture.
The music for the film was composed by Peter Gabriel.
So to work with Scorsese was a really wonderful experience because I think he's one of the best filmmakers.
Scorsese liked Gabriel's work from the early 80s, which had Eastern influences, which prompted him to ask Gabriel to produce the score, resulting in a very different feel compared to previous religious films.
No, he wanted something that was both ancient and contemporary, that had a sense of place but wasn't very specific, and yet had a lot of emotion.
The controversy surrounding this film begins in the scene showing Jesus when tempted to reject his divine purpose and refuse the cross, so that he can live the rest of his life as a man. The first time I watched this film, I found it to be an interesting idea to explore. Scenes depicting Jesus living the rest of his life as a normal man, marrying Mary Magdalene and consummating. This is all an hallucination, and ultimately the film affirms the supreme importance of his sacrifice. When the film was released in 1988 in America, it provoked public outcry from many religious groups who protested at cinemas.
The nature of the opposition, the ugly quality of it, is surprising and shocking and saddening, really, especially the anti-Semitism involved and the death threats, that sort of thing. I have certain feelings about God. I'd like to be able to say them. And from the look of things, the people who've worked on the film, the people who have seen the film, I just want to be able to say it, that's all. I want to be able to say it. I don't want to offend anybody else.
The effect, at least on me, was not to trash Jesus, but rather to make his message more accessible. For if he has doubts and fears, we can be more comfortable with our own. It's a very simple construction, and it works beautifully. If he can resist temptation after really struggling with it, maybe we can too.
You said you had a religious experience when you saw this film, and I did too. This movie made me think more deeply and more seriously, and for a longer time, I'm still thinking about it.
Yes.
And this movie is a devout movie that does Jesus the compliment of taking him more seriously than any other movie ever made.
This is a special film.
It's a good movie.
Due to several threats from religious groups, Scorsese had to be accompanied by bodyguards during public appearances, but the film also received a standing ovation from an audience who enjoyed it. When released on home video, many video stores, including Blockbuster Video, refused to stock the film because of its controversial reputation. The British Board of Film Classification received nearly 2,000 letters and petitions from the public and pressure groups, anxious about potentially blasphemous content. The BBFC took the unusual step of inviting 28 representatives of the major Christian churches to view the film at the BBFC, and also took legal advice from a QC before making a decision. They agreed that the film was not blasphemous in the legal sense, although it might offend some Christian viewers.
I was very serious about making that film. I didn't expect the reaction on that level.
And the notion that asking what if, because it didn't happen.
No,
He
I
has
know.
a what if.
It's
What if I'd
maybe
gotten married?
one moment of
One moment.
because it's in Christologically speaking, it's all divine and all human.
The film was passed uncut in 1988 and classified as an 18. By the year 2000, controversy receded and the BBFC reclassified the film for DVD as a 15. Well, thank you for watching this recommendation video. I hope it's been interesting and insightful on quite a controversial film, but I do feel it's worth a watch, and it's you know, a film I find quite intriguing of an idea. Willem Dafoe is very good in it, and I think Scorsese did a pretty good job with it, considering all his restrictions he had. If you give it a watch, any feedback, I'll be interested. Thank you for watching.